Hello Stud-Scribers, Red Suit Studs here. Today I'm going to be taking you on a tour of my helmet collection. I have 20 helmets in total, ranging from Clone Troopers, Stormtroopers, Mandalorians, and even Marvel helmets. So without further ado, let's check them out. So to start off my collection here, we're going to start with the Phase 1 Captain Rex Clone Wars helmet. Now this helmet is going to be unlike all the others in my collection, that's why we're just kind of starting first here with this one. That being, I made this one. So this was actually, what I did was I took a base from a Hasbro Clone Trooper helmet that came out. It was kind of the Clone Wars toy line, I think like 2009, 2010, that era. So I actually took a kid's toy helmet from Hasbro and converted it into this. And even by today's standards, that helmet, that original Hasbro helmet, it was a really good toy. It was almost a replica level of good, because really the only thing that was different was the visor was a little bit bigger and you could see some of the cracks in the helmet where it's put together. So just with a little bit of tweaking, you can turn it into this. You can see on the top here, you can kind of see where I used some heavy-duty car filler to just kind of keep some of the cracks from showing there. You can see on the back here a little bit as well. You can see some of my spray paint is chipping a little bit, but that's because I did this a couple years ago. But yeah, you can see over here some more cracks. You can see a little bit of the paint filler, or the car filler there. But with most of the cracks covered up, from a distance, it looks like a real, perhaps Black Series helmet. I'm actually surprised that they haven't made a Captain Rex Black Series helmet, especially with how popular Clone Wars has gotten over the past couple years. But with the right tools and a little bit of elbow grease, you can come up with something like this. But like I was saying with that visor, you can kind of see here the little space between these cheek plates here. They're actually 3D printed. I got them on Etsy to kind of fix that visor. So that way it was a little bit more screen accurate, because without them they look a little bit like you can tell it's a kid's helmet. But once you put these on, it looks like an actual clone helmet from the movies. And I chose to make it more like the helmets from the movies versus the show, because the dimensions of the helmet itself just fit more to the actual screen accurate Clone Trooper helmet versus the animated one, because with the animated one the visor is a lot different too. So it was just a little bit easier to just go for this movie accurate Clone Trooper helmet here. And then also it comes with a rangefinder here that can just move up and down. It's not like some of the Black Series helmets where there's a button that it drops down. You just have to push it, and then you can put some batteries in it too and it lights up. But I wasn't too worried with that feature. I just wanted it to have the rangefinder. And if you want, both sides come with these little caps that you can take off, so you can put the rangefinder on the other side too. But since Captain Rex has his on his right side of his helmet, that's kind of where I wanted to keep it, so it was more accurate to what his looks like. So yeah. But like I said, I'm surprised that they haven't come up with a Black Series Captain Rex helmet, Phase 1 or Phase 2. I think Phase 2 is a little bit more popular, but I really like the fin on the Phase 1 helmets, and I really like the T-shaped visor, so that's kind of what I wanted to go for with this one here, not the Phase 2 look. But I hope they make a Black Series Captain Rex helmet eventually, because I definitely get it, because he's one of my favorite characters from Clone Wars. But until then, this is kind of what I came up with. Continuing on with our Clone Trooper theme here, next we have our Phase 2 Jesse helmet. So I get a lot of comments asking where I get my helmets from, and the next few that you'll see, most of my Clone Trooper ones, I get from a cosplay company based in Russia called Cybercraft, or Kybercraft, I guess. It just kind of depends on how you pronounce it. And I get all my helmets shipped from Russia. It takes a while to get them, but the craftsmanship on these helmets are insane, and you'll see why here. So you can see all around the helmet, you have a ton of different battle damage details, where it seems like they kind of went at it with like a bit of a wire brush or something like that to give it some scratches and make it look more battle worn. But around the entire helmet, there's just detail everywhere, from dirt marks to those scratches. So the detail on these helmets are absolutely insane, and they are a little on the expensive side. It just kind of depends which ones you get. I think this one, at the time I got it, it was a little under $300, but it just kind of depends on the kind of helmet you're getting. Some of them are worth a little bit more, whether they have like a rangefinder or kind of like a visor. It just kind of depends on what kind of add-ons you want, and you can get fully customized ones as well. And you can see on the inside here, it's fully padded, so it's super soft on the inside. So you could easily wear these for a good while before they start to get uncomfortable. Of course, they're still gonna get hot because that's just kind of the nature of wearing helmets a lot, but for how comfortable they are, it makes it a lot easier to wear for an extended period of time. Jesse's Phase 2 helmet was definitely my favorite from Season 7 of Clone Wars, so I knew as soon as I saw it on screen there, I was like, oh, I gotta find that online somewhere. So I kind of searched throughout Etsy and whatnot, and I didn't really find a good helmet until I came across their store. So as soon as I saw this one, I got it, and this was my first Cybercraft helmet that I got, and since then I think I've got like 5 other ones, and you'll see those in the rest of the collection, but this is one of my favorites right here. For our next helmet here, we have one of the 332nd Company, one of the Ahsoka troopers from Season 7 of Clone Wars. And similar to Jesse, it's the same Phase 2 mold here, but you can choose on the website, on Cybercraft, you can choose between a battle-damaged finish or a glossy finish. And so for this one, I chose a glossy finish just so I had something a little bit different compared to the Jesse helmet. And you can see here just how shiny it is. They use car paint, I believe, to make their helmets, so it really shows with the detail on here and how shiny it is. Another option that you can do is you can choose between the actual like screen accurate Clone Trooper helmets or the actual style of the Clone Wars helmets in the animated form. So if you wanted it to look more like the actual animated helmet, you can. But I opted for the screen accurate one just so that it would match more to my other helmets, since they're all a lot like the helmets from the movies, just so I could kind of keep the same theme between all my helmets. And just like the Jesse helmet, this one is nice and padded on the inside, of course, nice and comfortable, so that way it doesn't hurt too bad after you start wearing it for a while. This was another helmet from Clone Wars Season 7 that I really wanted to get, but I got Jesse's first just because I really like the 501st Legion like most people do, so I opted to get Jesse first. But this is one that I got a couple months later here, and I love the design on the front here and how much it resembles the actual helmet from the show, just in a more realistic style of helmet, just like the Episode 3 Clone Troopers. My next Cybercraft helmet that I have here is Commander Thorn from Season 6 of Clone Wars. He is a member of the Coruscant Guard, and he perhaps has one of the coolest death scenes in all of Clone Wars for any of the Clone Troopers. And at first I was going to get Commander Fox because I really like how most of his helmet is red, there's just a little bit of white showing, but I also really like the wing design on Thorn's helmet here, and he did really make an impression on me in the show. He was such a cool character, and the way he went out was so awesome. And if you didn't already know, the wings on the helmet are actually a reference to Thor from the Marvel movies, which is why he's named Thorn. And I will admit, this helmet is definitely much harder to see out of compared to some of my other ones because of this visor here. So I don't know how the clones do it, how they shoot straight, but it's definitely a lot harder to see out of this one because you're so closed off here. But just like the other ones, still padded on the inside, so it's still comfortable. It's just a little bit harder to see out of. But then we also, on the back here, we have a nice little antenna too for some extra detail. This helmet it's basically Commander Cody's helmet with the visor and the antenna in the back here, but it's just red instead of orange like the Commander Cody helmet, so yeah. So this here is my final Cybercraft clone helmet. I have more Cybercraft helmets, but this is just the last of my Clone Trooper helmets here. And I originally was going to get Commander Wolf from the Wolfpack, but this here is Comet. And I just really love the design on his helmet here with the kind of comet coming down the middle of his helmet here. And I like the red hash marks on the side as well. And then all along the side you get this wolf design. It's just so cool. And I love the matte gray coloring on this helmet. So it's similar to the Jesse helmet that I had and the Commander Thorn helmet, where it's more of a matte finish instead of a glossy one like the 332nd. But it's not as battle damaged. It's pretty clean relatively compared to the Jesse helmet. You have a little bit of battle damage on the top and on the sides here. But I really like this forehead design, so that's why I kind of chose this one, because I wanted to get a Wolfpack helmet, and I thought about getting Commander Wolf, but I ended up getting this one because I just really love that forehead design on Comet's helmet. So even though that was it for my Cybercraft Clone Trooper helmets, I still have one more clone here. I have a clone Commando helmet here. So this is Commander Gregor from, I believe it was in Season 6 of Clone Wars, Season 5, one of those two. and I wanted to get a clone Commando helmet, but I wasn't sure which one to pick because I had played the Old Republic Commando game for Xbox back in the day, and all 4 of those helmets are really cool, but I didn't really have much of a connection with any of those characters, but since this guy was in Clone Wars, I really liked his episode, and the design of it is really cool too. I think it's either hash marks or stitches around the front, and I like how it's kind of like a digitized camo all along with this gray here. It kind of goes all the way around the back of the helmet too here. But then actually, this is one of the coolest parts right here. So this helmet was a little bit more expensive, and this is why right here. So this one actually lights up on the inside. It has a little LED strip at the top here, and it looks exactly like the Clone Commando helmets from all the other Star Wars media, and it even has a little light here too. It's not super bright, but I mean, this is the main attraction right here. So this is probably the most tricked out helmet I have here with the lights and everything. Some of the Black Series helmets have some pretty cool different features, but as far as a Cybercraft helmet goes, this is probably the fanciest one I have here, and purely for this LED strip here. But I love this helmet right here. The yellow accents, the stitches or hash marks, and the camo, the lights, it all works together. It's such a cool helmet here. So moving on to some of my Black Series helmets here, this is actually the first Black Series helmet I ever got. This Stormtrooper one. It came out in 2016, I believe. It coincided with the release of Rogue One back in the day, and it actually is based on the Rogue One Stormtroopers, so it has kind of those green tinted lenses, and it's a little bit different from other Stormtroopers we've seen in Star Wars media because they've made some minor tweaks to the helmets in that movie. And I'll admit, I'm a little spoiled with those Cybercraft helmets because some of these Black Series ones are a lot more uncomfortable than those because they're not padded at all. They just have that simple headband. The Captain Rex one had that as well. So they're not super comfortable. And you can see here, there's actually a little microphone for the voice changer, which is just turned on with this button on the side here. And you'll see some of the other Black Series helmets have voice changers as well. They're not that great. They don't pick up your voice too well. So I see a lot of people mod these helmets with actual voice changers that they implant into the helmet, some professional ones. So that's kind of, if you want to have a real voice changer, that's kind of your best bet to kind of mod it like that. But I'll test out the voice changer here just so you can kind of get a sense of how not great it is, I guess. So this here is the voice changer. You can kind of hardly hear it, and maybe it's because my helmet is old, but it's also just not that good. So as far as replicas go, this is a really good one-to-one rendition of a Stormtrooper helmet, and they've made a ton of different variations over the years with this same exact mold. They've done an Incinerator Trooper, they've done some Heavy Artillery Troopers, Shadow Troopers. They've used this mold a lot. I just have this base Stormtrooper model. If I was to get another one, maybe I would get the yellow one from the Mandalorian. That one's pretty cool to me, but since it's the same mold, I don't really feel too compelled to spend $100 on another helmet that's exactly the same, just with a different paint job, when I could probably do it myself. But you'll see with some of the Boba Fett helmets as well, they kind of reuse the same mold and they just kind of give it a different paint job and then say, okay, $120, fork it over. But I don't really get any of the extra renditions of those helmets. I just kind of get the base model that comes out first, and if I want to get it down the line, I'm willing to pay a little bit more, because then I'm sure I actually really want it. But just this base Stormtrooper one, it's actually really good. Aside from the voice changer. So here is our other Stormtrooper. This is the First Order Stormtrooper variant. This one came out, I think, a year or two ago, and this is a big improvement over the original Stormtrooper one. The voice changer is much better. It's a lot clearer, it picks up audio better, and it's a lot more comfortable than that one too. It's kind of a lot bigger on the inside, so it's made for bigger heads, and you can adjust it and make it smaller if you need to, but overall it's just a lot better than that last Stormtrooper one. And due to the nature of this design of this helmet, it's also a lot easier to see out of. The lenses are a little bit bigger, but here I'll turn it over so you can see on the inside here. So it still has kind of that head brace on the inside, but it's got a lot bigger base, and it has an elastic band in the bottom here, so it fits a lot better than some of the other Black Series helmets. That way it's also a little bit more comfortable. It's not padded like the Cybercraft ones, but it is better than a lot of the Black Series ones. So I'll do a test drive on the voice changer here just so you can see how much better it is than the other Black Series helmets. So similar to the other Stormtrooper helmet, it has a button on the side that you push, and then it just kind of amplifies your voice. It's a lot louder than the other Stormtrooper one. There's a speaker in the top of the helmet, I think, so it just makes it a lot clearer than the other one. And you can hear when you're done talking, it kind of does a little static sound, which is a nice little effect compared to the other Stormtrooper helmet. So yeah, this is for sure better than the other Stormtrooper helmet. The voice changer alone, right there, it makes it so much better, and it does wonders for trying to actually talk in this thing. But I don't use it in videos for voice changing, because then it's not as clear as just a microphone on my voice. But this is definitely one of my favorite Black Series helmets overall. It's a lot comfortable. It's a lot more comfortable than the other Stormtroopers. And it also has a better voice changer, and I just really like the design of the First Order helmets a lot. I think they've only ever made one other rendition of this helmet as well. It was a red Stormtrooper helmet, and I think it was like a Galaxy's Edge or Target exclusive. It was something exclusive because it was based on a character either in Galaxy's Edge or maybe it was in some other TV show, but it was a minor character, and I think it was just like kind of a promotional thing. It wasn't widely available, and it was just a red paint job on this helmet, so not too many different versions of this one. I would, however, like to see a Captain Phasma helmet, which it would be a little different mold because her helmet isn't exactly the same as the other Stormtroopers. It's a little bit thinner on the chin. It's not big and wide here, and of course it has that big chrome paint job. And I don't think they would be doing a Captain Phasma helmet anytime soon, considering the sequels are over. So unless they have some other sequel era content being pumped out down the road, I don't really see them making a Captain Phasma helmet. But I can dream. I really like that helmet, and that'd be a cool one to add to the collection as well. So next up we have our Luke Skywalker Red 5 X-Wing helmet. There's a couple different X-Wing helmets in the Black Series. This is Luke Skywalker's version here. It's pretty bare bones. There's nothing too much that's too fancy about it. There is a button on the side here for some battle sound effects, so I'll put it close to my mic here so you can kind of hear it. So there's not really much you can do as far as extra peripherals on an X-Wing helmet, because there's no fancy lights or sounds or anything that you can really do with that. So they kind of just put a speaker on the inside for some battle sound effects. So I guess that's kind of a cool thing that they could do. And then also finally, we have some nice padding in a Black Series helmet. So it's nice and snug on your head, and it has an adjustable chin strap too. And then we have this little microphone too. It doesn't really do anything, it just sits there. But finally some more padding, so makes it a lot more comfortable to wear. But the craftsmanship on this one is actually pretty good. There's some nice wear and tear, some battle damage, some scoring on the helmet. So that's kind of a first for Black Series helmets, because they don't really do too much battle damage on the helmets, especially like the Stormtrooper ones and Mandalorian ones, except maybe Boba Fett. But you can see that there's a lot of different battle damage all along the helmet. So it's a pretty basic helmet. I think this one, it might be a little less than 100, or it's right around 100, because a lot of them are over 100, especially some of the Mandalorian, Darth Vader ones, stuff like that. But this one's a pretty basic helmet, so it's a little bit cheaper, and you'll see the next one is too. So this here is our next X-Wing pilot helmet. This is Poe Dameron's helmet from the sequel trilogy. And similar to Luke's, there isn't a whole lot going on here. It does have sounds, and then it also has this retractable visor here that goes up and down just like it does in the movie. So here, I'll put the sounds on for you so you can hear it. There's a switch right here that you just flip it on. And it's kind of like a constant ship X-Wing sound, and then every time you push the button, I think BB-8 speaks to you or something. So I'll put it by the mic here so you can hear it. And just like Luke's as well, there's a lot of padding in here. Although this helmet is just generally smaller than Luke's, so it is a really tight fit into this helmet. So it's comfortable once it's on, but getting it on is a little tough, especially if you have a bigger head. So just food for thought there. It also has some nice battle damage details, just like Luke's, kind of all around the back here, some scoring and some scratches. And then on the back, it actually has Poe's name written in the Star Wars language, Orbesh. So that's kind of a nice little detail. There's something along here too that it says. I don't really know how to translate that one, but has some nice details all throughout, of course. I think I got this helmet for about $80 or so, and I've seen it for less since then. So it's not too expensive, especially since it's a pretty bare bones helmet. It's not as fancy as a chrome Mandalorian one or a Darth Vader helmet obviously, so it's cheaper to scale with how minimal the features are on this helmet. Next up, I have a few Mandalorian helmets to show off here. Of course, we have our titular Mandalorian Din Djarin here, and you can see right off the bat just how shiny this helmet is here. It may be made of plastic, but it certainly looks like Beskar to me. And I think the best part is that if you touch any of the shiny reflective pieces here, it's really hard to leave fingerprints here, which is a major positive there, because when I first got it, I was really worried that if I grabbed it anywhere, it would just be a nightmare for fingerprints, but it's really good because you can touch pretty much anywhere and it's not going to leave any residue. One of the minor details of this helmet, but I think it's one of the coolest, is that when you tip it upside down to put it on, it actually has some lights inside that light up. So this helmet must have a gyroscope or something, because when you tip it back up, the light turns off, you tip it back to put it on, and the light goes on. So some of the detailing on the inside of this helmet is kind of the best part of this helmet, which is kind of crazy to say considering how amazing the outside is. But on the inside, you can just see all the different textures of plastic, like all the tech stuff that they have there on the front. It's kind of crazy how much detail they packed on the inside here. And it's a pretty comfortable one to wear too. It's not super padded, but it does have a nicer headband, just like that First Order Stormtrooper. Some of the newer Black Series helmets have been using nicer headbands recently, so they're a lot more comfortable than they used to be. And another cool detail of this helmet is that it actually comes with a little flashlight piece here that you can put on the side, just like he wears in some of the episodes of the show. So you just pop this side cap off, and I'll just tip it over here. You can just clip it right in there, and then it has a button for you to turn the flashlight on. So you can see the button right here on the bottom of the temple here of the helmet. So you just push that button, and you have a flashlight. And my battery is dead. And then on the bottom of your helmet, you have a little button to turn the flashlight on and off, like that. So as far as a Mandalorian helmet goes, I think Hasbro kind of nailed it here, because I think the finish on it is probably one of the most important things you can get right, is the shine, but also the fact that it doesn't leave any fingerprint marks, and it's really clean too. So this is definitely a really good installment in the Black Series collection. Next up is the original Boba Fett helmet. Now this helmet has had a couple iterations since then, because this one came out, I think it was for the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, so it was a few years ago, and they've had a few iterations since then, especially since the Book of Boba Fett has come out. There's been a couple for that, but this is just kind of the original base model, and it's the same helmet mold for all the other ones. They just do a different paint job, but I just have the original one. So similar to the Mandalorian one that I just showed off, you can see inside that it has that nice headband, and it has all the nice detailing on the inside of the helmet. So this one is pretty comfortable, and it's also probably the easiest to see out of, I think, from all the helmets I have. I think this one's the easiest, and I think this section right here really helps with that, because not only do you have a wide field of view here, you have this whole front part that you can see out from the front of your face. So this is probably the easiest one to see out of from all the helmets I have. Aside from maybe those X-Wing helmets, but of course those are going to be easy to see out of because it's just a simple visor. But in the helmets, I think this is the easiest one. And similar to the Mandalorian one, we do have some functionality on the side temple here, of course with the rangefinder. So if you push this button here, the rangefinder can come down, and it has a little lights going, and it also lights up on the inside here, you can see, for a targeting computer. I think that was probably the most important functionality to have on this helmet, and I think they executed it pretty well. But the detail on this helmet is really great too. The dent, of course, the iconic dent in the helmet has some nice scoring all around it, and there's so much detail all around the helmet. Looks exactly like the helmet from Empire Strikes Back, so really good craftsmanship on this one here. And I do like some of the other Boba Fett helmets too. The re-armored one is really nice too, but since it's just kind of the same mold, I just decided to keep this one and not get a whole bunch of others just for a paint job. But I really like this original one here. So taking a break from the Black Series helmets for a second here, I have another Cybercraft helmet here. This time it's Bo-Katan from Season 7 of Clone Wars. And I got this helmet a couple years ago, around the release of Season 7. And at that time, there wasn't a Black Series Bo-Katan helmet. But now, with the soon-to-be-released Mandalorian Season 3 next year, they have a new helmet for Bo-Katan in the Black Series, and I thought about getting it even though I had this version, and it's a little bit different, of course, because this one's handmade, but I think I'm going to stick to this one here because it is $120 for a helmet that is exactly the same as this one. The only difference is that the rangefinder has, similar to the Boba Fett version of the Mandalorian helmet, has the button on the side where it drops down and it has the lights and everything, whereas this one you just simply push down, so it's not as fancy. But I think I'm just going to stick with this one unless I can find the Bo-Katan Black Series cheap somewhere a few years down the road, a few months down the road after it comes out. But until then, I think I'm just going to stick with this version here. Just like all the other Cybercraft helmets I have, of course, it's nice and padded on the inside, unlike some of those Black Series ones, so this one's really comfortable to wear. However, unlike Boba Fett, it is very hard to see out of this one because the middle visor is so thin and the eye slits are also so thin, and this nose that kind of, from the owl design on the front that drops down, kind of blocks your vision too, so this is a really hard one to see out of. Almost as hard as that Commander Thorn one earlier, but I do really like the craftsmanship on this one. This one, of course, has some scratches and scoring as well, as Bo-Katan's helmet is pretty worn, but the owl design on the front too is really well done. So considering I wasn't able to get a Black Series version of Bo-Katan at the time, this was a great replacement for it because the craftsmanship on this one's really great. It just doesn't have the electronic rangefinder, which if it did, I'm sure it would be even more expensive than it already was, but maybe I'll pick up the Black Series version one day. So getting into the last couple Star Wars helmets I have before we do some of my Marvel ones, this is the Darth Vader helmet from, I believe it was around 2016 that it came out, 2017 maybe. There has been, or there will be, another version of it next year, styled after the Obi-Wan Kenobi series Darth Vader helmet. And that one, I think it just has different colored lenses and just some other general tweaks from this helmet since its release. But as far as I know, it's pretty much the same mold, but it's a pretty big helmet once you get it on, and it's pretty heavy too. Unlike a lot of the other Black Series helmets, this one actually comes in multiple pieces. So you can see here, the top part actually comes off. You can see that there's some magnets in there that then connect to the top here, and you can see that it comes with this stand here to actually put it on, because since that top part goes down so long, they then sit it on here, because then that tall part kind of touches the ground as well, so they kind of need a little bit of a boost, otherwise the top part would kind of be pushing up off the magnets. But they're pretty strong magnets too. And then you can see here on the inside, it has a nice head strap here which can be tightened. It's a little bit more comfortable than some of the other Black Series helmets, because you can see here it has some padding up top, and then this piece also comes off here. It gets bolted on there, and you take it off on both sides. So this helmet does have a lot of assembly to put on here. It's pretty complicated, but in order to have a good Darth Vader helmet, you kind of need all those pieces to put together, because otherwise just putting the helmet on with one piece, it would probably be pretty difficult, because the neck actually gets pretty tight to your own once you put it on. And then on the inside here, you can see we have a lot of detail, just like the Darth Vader mask in the movies. You can see some wiring and just a lot of details on the plastic in there. And the lenses, as tinted as they are, they're pretty easy to see out of, and they're nice and big compared to some of the other Black Series helmets. So it's relatively easy to see out of this one. And then of course, no Darth Vader helmet would be complete without a voice changer of some kind. This one does not have like a microphone that you can speak into like a lot of some of the older toys did, but it's just a button on the side here that you push and you can hear Darth breathe for you there. So I am curious to see what else can be improved upon on this design with the newer version that's coming out next year, other than just some of the tweaks to the coloring on the lenses and whatnot to make it more accurate to what was seen in the Kenobi series. But this one, it's pretty flawless. Maybe a little bit better head strap, I guess, but you can tighten it and it has padding at the top, so it's pretty good. And all the different pieces that go together, it makes it pretty seamless once you get it actually on there. So I would say this is definitely a good Black Series helmet. So once the new one comes out, I'm not sure what else they're going to improve on, but I'm excited to see it. So for my final Star Wars helmet, before we get into my few Marvel ones that I have, is this Kylo Ren helmet that came out around, I believe, 2016-ish, like right after Force Awakens came out. And I actually didn't get it until much later. I got it a couple years ago when I was just kind of going back and going through all the Black Series helmets, seeing which ones I wanted to collect. And I bought it for resale on eBay. And when I got it, it was about $300, not even in box. Not with anything extra, just the helmet itself, because they only ever really made one print of these helmets. They never really did an extra one, like some of the Stormtrooper ones and Darth Vader. They kind of get reprints over the span of a year or so. Even though Black Series helmets, they're pretty hard to get right away, but they usually have reprints, but I don't think this one ever did. So it was kind of the first come, first served, and then they didn't make it again. And they never made another one for Rise of Skywalker either, which I feel like would have been really cool, because since he has all those red cracks in his helmets, they could have done something cool with some LED lights or something, but this was the only Kylo Ren helmet that was ever made, so I bought it for a heck ton of money. I think it was originally around 100 or 120 retail, but I got it for about 300. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not too sure it's worth that much. It looks nice in the front. They did a really good job with the chrome and some of the dents and cracks in the helmet, but there's this really obvious battery pack seam here and all along the sides of the helmet. So it's not really up to par with some of the other Black Series replica standards. Like it kind of feels like a toy. It's pretty flimsy too. I don't know, it's not as good as some of the other ones. And that it's really uncomfortable to wear too. It just has a simple headband, no padding, no nothing. And this one has a voice changer, just like that Stormtrooper one. However, I didn't think it would be possible to top how bad the Stormtrooper one was from 2016. But this one, it's so distorted that you cannot even make out what anybody's saying. And granted, Kylo Ren's helmet, it sounds pretty distorted, but this one, I don't know, it's a lot louder than the Stormtrooper helmet from that year, but with just as much distortion, so it just sounds even worse. So I'll do a test drive here so you can hear it, but I'm curious how the mic is even gonna pick it up, but it's not gonna sound too good. Hello? Testing? I don't even know if you can hear what I'm saying, but it sounds pretty bad. So I'm curious to watch that back and even hear how it sounds, but from just being in the room with it, it doesn't sound that great. And it's also, this is just the nature of Kylo Ren's helmet, it's so hard to see out of here because it's just one little slit. So for display purposes, it's great, looks really great in the front. Anything more than that, I wouldn't really recommend it unless you can get it super cheap, which you're probably not going to because it's only had that one print and it's just so expensive. So now with that being said, let's check out some of the Marvel helmets. So starting off with our Marvel helmets, of course we have Iron Man here. This is the MCU version. All of these are going to be from the MCU movies, although they've done some different variations, especially for this Iron Man helmet. They've done a War Machine version for the MCU, but then they also did, I think, a Punisher version, which is in the comics or some TV shows, stuff like that. So they have a lot of different variations of helmets, but this is just the base one. Similar to Boba Fett and some of the Stormtroopers, it's the same mold for the helmet with some of those other Iron Man ones, but it's just a different paint job, so I just got the base one here because I'm not really interested in all those other paint jobs. I think it has a really cool feature here that they do where the face mask, it's actually got some magnets here on the corners, and you can see it's got them all along the top here. So if you can take it off completely, so you can show your face like Tony Stark does in the movies, or you can actually just tip it up top here, and you can have it open, so it's like the helmet opened up to talk, and it stays like that because the magnets are really good quality. So this is a really cool feature for this helmet that they added in there that you wouldn't normally think to add. I think some of the other Iron Man toys, they just kind of have it on like a clasp that opens up kind of like a barn door, but the magnets on here are actually really good and a really cool way to do this. And then once you take it off those magnets and you plug it into place here, there's actually, I think it's another little magnet or some kind of battery or something that connects on the bottom by the chin here. And once you put it in, he suits up. And since this is an older helmet, my lights are kind of going here, so they usually kind of fade in, but you can see that they still light up there. And then on the inside, I'm going to be honest, these Marvel helmets probably are the least uncomfortable out of all of my helmet collection. Worse than the Kylo Ren, the Stormtrooper, the helmets in the Marvel collection, they're pretty bad for comfortability, so I can't wear them for too long. Because you can see here, it just has a simple band and a lot of sharp plastic around the corners, so trying to get this on, it's really difficult and it hurts. But you can see, to try and ease the pain there, they have the back on a hinge here, so it's a little bit easier to get it in there, but it's still pretty difficult and it still hurts a lot trying to get it on. But as far as display pieces go, I think it's really great. The sounds are a nice touch, but the lights are really cool to have displayed, especially if you, I think all of the Marvel helmets that I have lights in some way, so having them all lit up at the same time is a really cool display piece. And the magnets for the faceplate, it's a great idea. So it's a really cool display piece, not so much to wear, it's pretty uncomfortable. Next we have the Black Panther helmet that came out around the time the first movie did, and they're actually doing another version coming up, I think next year or towards the end of this year for Wakanda Forever, and it's actually going to be a little bit more accurate because with this version it lights up blue, which a lot of the toys around the release of the first movie, they were all marketed as blue. A lot of the Legos with Black Panther in them, he had blue on his suit. I think it was because a lot of the promotional material or the preliminary images that a lot of the toy companies were given for this movie before it came out was with blue highlights, and then they changed it to purple last minute or during production. So pretty much everything from this era of Black Panther toys has blue. So it's a little inaccurate, but I think the newer version, they're going to have purple light, so it's going to be a little bit more accurate. And then this is a really cool feature here that I never would have thought that they would add. The button on the other side lifts the eyes up, so similar to the movie where the eyelids kind of open up so you can see, it's actually really easy to just slide them back down, and then it has like a little suit up light animation. So that's a really cool touch there. Nothing as far as like voice changer microphone or anything in this one, of course, because it doesn't sound different. I'm surprised the Iron Man one didn't have some kind of voice changer to make it sound more electronic, I guess. But actually, on the inside here, you can see we have just a little bit of padding, just ever so slightly. It's like on Velcro, and it's just the thinnest they could possibly give you. So as far as the Marvel helmets go, I guess this is the most comfortable, but that's not saying much. But yeah, I really like the outer features on this helmet. I think this is probably one of my favorite Marvel helmets for the lights and the eyes here. I think it's just such a cool feature to do all that, and having that animation too once you put it down, that's so cool. Then we have our Star-Lord helmet that came out around 2017, I believe, around the time Guardians Volume 2 came out. And there's one thing in this helmet that I think is one of the coolest features that has ever been added to a Hasbro helmet, but also probably one of the most pointless. So you're not gonna be able to see it, but I mean, maybe, so you can kind of see there's some speakers on the inside here. So what you can do is that this helmet has Bluetooth capability. Yeah, you heard that right, Bluetooth on a helmet for a toy. So you can actually connect it to your phone and you can play music through the speakers. They're not great quality because it's just a helmet. It's not like really nice speakers you're gonna buy from Best Buy or something, but they don't sound that great, but it's just such a cool detail that they added that it's kind of admirable. It's so weird, but it's such a cool detail. I think I used it once when I first got the helmet, haven't used it since, but it's so cool. And then of course, like a lot of the other Marvel helmets, we have a button for some lights, and it also has the same sound that it makes in the movies when he's kind of suiting up and the helmet's building around him. And then you can also kind of change the brightness with each push until you turn it off. And then getting it on, you have a much bigger hatch here compared to some of the other Marvel helmets. So this one's pretty easy to get on, and it has this big plate to put your head in here and a chin strap. So this one, it sits nice and tight. It's a little bit more comfortable from the other ones, just kind of due to the fact that a lot of your head is going to be not stuck in the helmet here, and it's just a lot easier to get onto, so it's less of a pain to kind of shove your head in there. But yeah, like I said, one of the most pointless features in a Hasbro helmet with those speakers in there, but it's just really cool. And here we have Ant-Man's helmet from Ant-Man and the Wasp. So this one was around 2018, 2019, I think it came out. But I think it actually coincided with Avengers Endgame, even though it's the model from Ant-Man and the Wasp here. And this one doesn't have too many features other than the lights that turn on here. So one push and the red lights will go on. He also has some lights on the back here on the antennas. And then if you push it again, it'll go to blue for when he gets big. Red is shrinking, blue is big, then you push it again, and then they all turn off. So not many features with this helmet, but that's a nice touch. Pretty much all the Marvel helmets have some form of lights. And then on the inside, this one, it's really difficult to get on, similar to the other ones, and it helps with this hinge here, I guess, but I think one of the things that's a little bit better with the headband here is that it's on a little gear, so you just twist it and then it tightens on your head as needed, but it's still a little difficult to get on. But I think in the future, I'd like to see another version of this helmet done with the silver finish that the Mandalorian helmet had, because it's a little bit shinier in the movies than it is on here, and this is kind of a matte finish. It has a little bit of gloss, but I think if they did that same finish as they did with the Mandalorian's helmet, I think it would look fantastic. And I think that when the next Ant-Man movie comes out, Quantumania, I feel like they're all set up to do a Wasp helmet next. So if they don't do that, they're completely missing out, because they haven't made one yet. And they could use that same kind of technique with that silver finish, but I guess it would also be nice to match this one. So either way, I just really want a Wasp helmet to come out with that next movie, so hopefully that's my next Marvel helmet in my collection. And finally, we have the Iron Spider helmet from Spider-Man No Way Home. This one came out just around the end of last year, and I think this is probably one of the hardest Marvel ones to get on here, because you can see it's like perfectly form-fitted to the human head, and if you have a head any bigger than this, you're not going to get it in there. Similar to the other ones, you kind of have the hinge where you can kind of pull it back, but it's not a hinge, it's more like on like a plastic band in there, and it only stretches so far. So this one's really difficult to get on, and it's very tight to your head. It has some padding, but similar to the Black Panther one, it's just like a thin pillow with like hardly any stuffing in it. And then of course, we have some lights like most of the other Marvel helmets. So you click once and it goes to blue, and then every time you click it past that, it dims, and then it goes to red, and then it dims again until you turn it off. So it has kind of that instant kill mode that he uses in Avengers Endgame. So this one, on the outside, it's pretty nice. It's kind of easy to see these gaps here for where you can breathe, and the kind of the cracks in the helmet where they put it together. So it's not as seamless of a design as I would have hoped, but it is nice to have those lights in there. It's a little too uncomfortable to justify the rest of the helmet. So I'd like to see them give another go at this maybe one day, or have them make like a cloth Spider-Man helmet that's nice and form-fitting and maybe has moving lenses or something, because they've used toys that have moving lenses like that in the Spider-Man lines before. But as far as Marvel helmets go, they're pretty much run-of-the-mill, lights, uncomfortable, you know. I hope you enjoyed seeing all my helmets in my collection. Let me know which one you think I should get next, or what you want to see the Black Series make a replica of. Don't forget to Stud-Scribe, and thanks for watching.